Picture a place so cold, so quiet, the only sound is the snow crunching under your boots. We're in the frozen forests of Finland during the brutal Winter War, and somewhere out there, hidden in the endless white, an unseen enemy is watching. This is where a legend is born. To the invading Soviet soldiers, he was a complete ghost, a phantom. They never, ever saw him. All they heard was a single, sharp crack echoing through the trees, and then they saw a comrade fall silently into the snow. You can just imagine the panic that spread through the ranks, and with it this terrifying name, whispered from man to man, the White Death. And get this, all of this was happening in conditions that are almost impossible to wrap your head around. We are talking about temperatures dropping to -40 degrees. At that point, it doesn't even matter if it's Celsius or Fahrenheit, it's just brutally, dangerously cold. This wasn't just a fight against other soldiers, it was a constant battle for survival against nature itself. All right, so let's set the stage for how this all happened. The year is 1939, November. The massive Soviet Union decides to invade its tiny neighbor, Finland. I mean, this was the definition of a David versus Goliath story. The odds? They seemed completely, totally impossible for the Finns. The difference in power was just staggering. You've got the Soviets rolling in with more than 500,000 soldiers, thousands of tanks, a huge air force. And what did Finland have? Barely any heavy equipment and a tiny fraction of the troops. But they had one critical advantage the invaders didn't. They knew those unforgiving forests like the back of their hand. And in those forests, that advantage became a deadly weapon. For the Soviet soldiers, marching in their dark green uniforms, the snow was basically a kill box. They stuck out. They were easy targets for an enemy they couldn't even find. The psychological damage was immense. The fear became just as lethal as the cold. So who was this ghost in the snow? The legend of the White Death is terrifying, sure, but it was all built around one man. And the reality of who he actually was is, in a lot of ways, even more incredible than the myth itself. His name was Simo Häyhä, and he wasn't some kind of elite, specially trained super soldier. Nope. He was a quiet farmer, a lifelong hunter. His entire life had been spent right there, in the very forests he was now defending. He'd already mastered patience, silence, and of course, perfect aim. The skills he'd learned just to survive and hunt were about to become terrifyingly effective tools of war. So how in the world did one man become so devastatingly effective? Well, it wasn't magic. It was a masterful, genius-level application of skill, intelligence, and a deep, deep understanding of his environment. His tactics were brilliantly simple. His methods were basically a masterclass in how to become a ghost. Okay, so obviously he wore all-white camouflage, but it's the little details that made him truly invisible. He'd build a tiny bank of snow in front of him, not just for cover, but as a perfect rest for his rifle. Then he'd pack more snow on top to completely hide the muzzle flush. And this is my favorite part. He would keep snow in his mouth so that his own warm breath wouldn't create a puff of vapor in the freezing air. Every single detail was planned out. Now, here's a detail that kind of goes against everything you think you know about snipers. In an age where scopes were available, why on earth did he refuse to use one? Simple. A scope has one fatal flaw. The glass lens can catch a glint of sunlight, and that little flash acts like a giant beacon that basically screams, "Hey, sniper right here." It was a risk he just was not willing to take. Instead, he relied only on his rifle's simple iron sights and his own almost superhuman skill. No tech, just pure raw marksmanship. Well, as his body count grew, so did the Soviet army's desperation to get rid of him. He wasn't just some soldier anymore. He was a symbol of Finnish resistance, a one-man wrecking crew tearing through their forces. The hunter was now officially the hunted. And when I say the Soviets threw everything they had at him, I mean everything. They sent in their own specialized counter-sniper teams. They unleashed massive artillery bombardments on any area they even suspected he might be. Whole units were sent on search and destroy missions with just one goal: find the White Death. And still, somehow, he evaded them all, just melting back into the snow before they ever got close. But his luck couldn't hold out forever. On March 6th, 1940, after months of cheating death, a Soviet soldier got a lucky shot. An explosive bullet hit Simo in the jaw. He fell, unconscious, into the snow. When his comrades found him, he was so horrifically wounded, they were sure he was dead. It seemed the reign of the White Death was finally over.
But the story doesn't end there in the snow. Not even close. In fact, what happened next is what really cemented his status as a true legend. Not just as a soldier, but as a survivor.
Before we get to that, let's just pause and look at this number, 505. Let that sink in for a second. That is the official, final count of his confirmed sniper kills in less than 100 days of fighting. It's a record that has never, ever been broken. He is, without a doubt, the deadliest sniper in military history.
And incredibly, he survived that devastating injury. He was in a coma for days, but he woke up. And in a twist that sounds like something straight out of a movie, he regained consciousness on March 13th, 1940. The very same day the peace treaty was signed and the Winter War officially ended. His personal war was over, and so was his country's.
So what does a living legend do after a war like that? Simo Häyhä simply went home. He went right back to being a farmer and a hunter. He almost never spoke about what he did during the war, about his time as the White Death. He remained a quiet, humble man right to the end, a total contrast to the terrifying figure he had become. And that's the story that leaves you with this one big question. What actually turns a quiet farmer into a legend of war? Was it something extraordinary within the man himself? Was it the brutal environment that he mastered? Or was it just the simple, desperate act of a man defending his home against impossible odds?